Welcome to the Outdoor Biz Podcast, your home for inspiring conversations with outdoor insiders. Each week, author, speaker, adventurer, and outdoor industry veteran Rick Saez talks in depth with iconic brand founders, sales and marketing pros, product designers, and industry rising stars. Listen in when Rick's guests offer actionable advice to land your ideal industry gig and grow your outdoor career. Catch us again when the conversation shifts to the hottest outdoor products, destinations, and the latest industry insights. And now, here's Rick.
Welcome back, everyone. Today I have a unique show covering a topic many of us don't give enough attention to, insurance. Rob, Martin, and Tori Hoeschler from the Horizon Aid are well-versed on most things happening with outdoor sports insurance and have a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the outdoor industry, risk management, and challenges facing outdoor brands and shops across the country. Hey, Rob and Tori, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's good to speak with you guys this morning. This is going to be an interesting topic. I think a lot of folks will be listening to hear what you guys have to say. Insurance is always a challenge for all of us these days, right?
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
In many ways. Let's begin with how you were introduced to the outdoors. Rob, you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, I think I need to give the credit to my parents. I grew up in Boulder, Colorado for the most part, and was skiing at a very early age and camping every weekend, and just grew up in it, continued on to the University of Colorado, and then lived in the Vail Valley for 5 years after that, fishing pretty much every day. So born and raised in the outdoor industry, I'd say.
Nice. That sounds pretty good. Tori, how about you?
Yeah, and I too would have to give all of the credit to my parents. So my dad, who's actually the founder of our outdoor sports insurance program and a former Olympic skier himself and major outdoor enthusiast, he would put me in a Jansport backpack as an infant and go skiing with me down the hill. Wow. So, so it was just, and then anytime I would say, essentially from the point that I started to show signs of walking, I was in a pair of ski boots. So so it's one of those things where it's hard to be in my family as well and not be an avid outdoor enthusiast.
And you were also in Colorado?
No, I have been born and raised up here in Minneapolis.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So you're in Minneapolis. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's some good skiing back there. A little different, a little colder maybe.
Yeah, we would typically go skiing out west, but there is some decent skiing here too. If you go farther up north, for sure.
Yeah. And Tori, did you have an outdoor job? Did you ever work in retail or any of that kind of thing?
Not in the retail space. I would say the closest thing I had to an outdoor job was when I was younger. Like in high school, I was a nanny for a lot of summers. And then one of the summers, I was nannying in a neighborhood where there was a ton of kids and a ton of other nannies. And we basically joined forces and basically started what was like a summer camp to entertain all of the kids all at once. And would just do all kinds of things like go on hikes and go out to the lakes and do events like that. So that I think would probably be the closest thing to my first outdoor type of job.
Gotcha. Created your own outdoor job. That's interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Rob, how about you?
Yeah, I guess my first outdoor job really was out of college. I was had an environmental management degree and worked for a fisheries biologist and got to run all over Colorado doing studies on the river and shocking the river to do fish studies and those sorts of things. And that job ended with some funding issues, but I went up to Vail for the rest of one season and stayed 5 years managing mountaineering shops. So that was what led to this career path, but probably a great way to spend 5 seasons up in the mountains.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, that's super fun to get to do that stuff. And that probably did prepare you pretty well for what you're doing now. So insurance, as we know, is a significant component of anybody's business these days. And Rob, was that your path? How did you actually get into insurance? What was your first insurance gig?
Yeah, so first insurance gig was this gig. I met Tori's father, and she's going to talk about Jake here in a minute as well. But we were at a wedding in California, got paired up on a golf course, and I was looking to do something different. And he had started what was then the National Ski Insurance Program in Minneapolis. And I took a chance and came up and started working for him. And that was almost 25 years ago.
Wow, good for you. And so, Tori, it sounds like you just joined the family business at some point?
Yeah, it's funny because I really never had any intention of going into insurance originally. I have to say, it's not necessarily a typical career path that people are like, when I grow up, I want to be an insurance broker. But, it is a program that I was effectively raised with, if you will. And it's one that my dad started back in the 80s. He actually went to school out in Colorado, and then he went to law school at the University of Denver. And when he completed his education, he had a ton of friends from that area and also from his skiing days. And he saw that a lot of his friends who went into a business side of the outdoor sports, in like the retail space, also in the manufacturing space, but mainly in like the retail space, he was seeing a lot of these ski shops just getting totally clobbered with these crazy frivolous lawsuits. And so that's where he happened into insurance himself by accident. But then he thought, okay, I have my insurance license, I have a law degree, and I have all these friends who are at the business end of these insane suits. And so that's where he got the idea for this outdoor sports program. And then I actually got into the insurance side of things about 15, 16 years ago, where I started out as an underwriter on the carrier side. And they say, once you get into insurance, you rarely get out. And even though I tried to go back to grad school, and I got a couple degrees, and then I went into financial consulting. And then my dad was like, why don't you come back to the agency side? It's a pretty awesome lifestyle. It's a pretty awesome client base. And that was about 6.5 years ago.
Very cool. I would think if you're going to be in insurance or law, you guys have the perfect careers, because you're on the outdoor side, adventure side. You have to go, visit these businesses and participate a little bit, test drive some of their trips, make sure they're doing everything.
They're all business trips.
I can imagine. So what types of insurance do you focus on for outdoor businesses? I'm sure there's a variety of things.
Sure. It's commercial insurance or business insurance. And the bread and butter of our program is what we do for retailers and brands. So we are helping the retailers. Obviously, they need affordable insurance. They need the right coverages, but they also have unique exposures to things like rentals and demos and special events. And putting people on outdoor recreation gear comes with its own concerns. And we also work very closely with them in regards to providing waivers and risk management training and all of those sorts of things. And then on the brand side, it really is more product liability focused. We write all lines of coverage, but understanding the product liability is what we need to do there. And then obviously we see all kinds of different outdoor businesses, from outfitters and guides to special events, kind of anything and everything. We like to say we want to help everybody in the outdoor industry, and that's what we try and do.
That's very cool. Tori, anything to add to that?
No, okay. I don't.
So tell us about the top 3 insurance-related issues that many outdoor businesses are missing these days. I'm sure, with all the electronic side of the world, everything, from websites to whatnot has exploded. So they got to cover that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. So this is an excellent question. And you hit the nail on the head with what I would say is the number one insurance related issue that a lot of outdoor sports businesses are still not taking as seriously, maybe, or it's just not a line of insurance that they feel like they want to add to their insurance costs any further. And that has to do with cyber liability. And, currently, you are 10 times more likely to have a cyber event than you are to experience any kind of property damage, or like a fire.
Wow.
Or something like that. Yeah. And yet, and I think a lot of these businesses just think of this in the context of like those like major hackings that are in the headlines where all of these credit card numbers have been taken, and that's what the hackers are after. And that's really not the case. What has really become quite a plague, I would say, just in any industry sector, is this cyber extortion. And any type of business, if they use the internet in any way, shape, or form, they are exposed to this. And then, as I said, it's just cyber liability is just not really a policy that people care to talk about, because they all say, we don't save anything on our, there is. Yeah. And I was like, but you're still exposed. And then I am going to circle back to the ADA issues that have been popping up on their websites. But I think that would be a topic that is better addressed in the section where we talk about any of like the landmines that are currently out there right now. But so in addition to cyber, I would say on the retail side of things, typically what we see outside of our OSI program is, an outdoor sports retailer could have their standard property as well as their general liability coverage. But what they don't realize is that especially when it comes to the GL side, they actually are probably not going to be properly covered if they are involved in any kind of rentals or any kind of demos or like special events. Those policies very specifically exclude injuries for the people who happen to partake in those types of events. And that's what makes the OSI program so amazing, is that all of that insurance, all of that coverage is automatically built in. But if that's somewhere where there's can be a major blind spot if you don't have the proper third-party liability coverage. And then with the manufacturers, a lot of times what we see, so many of these manufacturers, they actually make their products outside of the US and then they import them in, and they don't have the proper international coverage. Any insurance policy is going to say that the coverage territory is on a worldwide basis. But all that means is that the injuries can take place anywhere in the world. But typically, if a person is going to try and seek some type of damages, they have to bring the suit back here in our country. And a lot of companies don't realize what a massive gap in insurance that is. And there are policies out there that can be properly tailored to the international landscape. And we don't see those as often as I think we should. And that's where we certainly can step in and help out on that front.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And back to the event side of things. So an event could be, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but an event could be anything from clinic where all your employees are in the shop in the evening and a rep's giving a training, to some kind of like at A16, we used to have the Mother's Day swap meet. So people have these swap meets in the parking lot where they sell stuff, and or it could be some kind of an event outside, obviously. But is that the gamut, the range of events? Anything could be an event. Three people get together to do something.
It's a pretty wide event. We have retailers that are obviously trying to compete with direct to consumer and Amazon and the REIs of the world. And so they're trying to differentiate themselves in their communities and be that go-to shop. And a lot of times they're doing that, whether it's a demo day or a mountain fest or a, learn how to clinic, whatever the case might be. And they can do those things in our program. We just want to work with them to make sure that we've got a proper waiver in place, and that, everybody that's involved, they may be partnering with a local brewery and serving beer or whatever the case might be. We've just, walk them through that and make sure that they can go have a good, fun, safe event.
That makes sense. Yeah. We're going to take a little break and give some love to our sponsor, Grammarly. If you write as much as I do, it's nice to have a little backup with the spelling and grammar, and I use Grammarly. Their instant grammar checker corrects all grammar errors and enhances your writing. To try it out, go to ricksays.com/grammarcheck and get signed up today. You can thank me later. That's ricksays.com/grammarcheck. Now back to the show. And how do these small outdoor businesses handle the cost side of insurance? Because it can be pretty expensive, right?
Yeah, it can be extremely expensive. And unfortunately, it's not looking good as far as the premiums going down anytime soon.
I've never seen that happen.
And then to add even further insult to injury on top of that, it's a little bit of a difficult question to answer, because so many of the reasons why the cost of insurance are so high these days really have nothing to do with like the actions of any one policyholder. It's basically what's happening in the overall climate and just the overall American market overall. So up until 2005, the United States was averaging, I would say, anywhere from 6 to 7 catastrophic events every year. So that would be like a hurricane or like a wildfire or some kind of insane flood. In between 2005 and 2021, however, that average has now increased to over 20 events a year. Wow. And when we say catastrophic events, we're talking about these are events that cost hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. And so the insurance carriers have just been shelling out a ton when it comes to property claims, for example. Right. And then even on the liability side, the cost of healthcare just continues to go up. And so that's going to make the cost of a third party injury suit to be expanded, and just the cost of these attorneys. And really the way that we try to set our policyholders up for some type of success and to help us to manage their insurance costs is we tell them to really do everything they can to mitigate their own exposure. Stay on top of your game, have the proper waivers, have the proper training for your employees, help us help them to really showcase them as these excellent managers of their own risk.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get involved. Yeah.
I'll just add too, we've been at this 35 years now, and our program is big enough now. We're really unique and don't have a lot of competition out there from the standpoint of we can absorb some of these bigger claims, whether it be a 7-figure liability claim or a work comp claim or whatever the case might be, based on the volume of premium that we have in this program and the relationships with the carriers that we have. That, we've been with the same carrier for over 30 years on our retail program. Mm-hmm. In that there's kind of safety in numbers in a way that we can, we can stick with a client, even if their number comes up and they have a bad lawsuit or they have a bad property loss. We're not going to cancel them. We're going to stick with them. And it's all viewed across that whole program premium, which really puts us at an advantage.
Yeah, that's really good to know. That's got to be comforting for a lot of folks that are working with you guys, knowing that you guys handle that way. So we mentioned earlier landmines. So I'm sure there are a handful of future law-related landmines business owners should be aware of. What are some of those? We talked a little bit about the ADA piece, right?
Yeah, the ADA compliance and website accessibility. And that really has become this kind of like new frontier of really petty plaintiff lawsuits. And what this involves is where, you'll have an attorney, what we would otherwise refer to as like the ambulance chasers, if you will, where
we just went through one of those in my day job, actually.
Yes, exactly. And so they'll hire somebody who has a visual impairment. And then they'll just tell them to go on to a bunch of different websites, effectively to see if the websites have been set up in such a way where there is the appropriate code that can then talk to the computers of people who have a visual impairment. And if the websites in any way cannot accommodate that, then these attorneys just send them a demand letter and say, you are out of compliance with the ADA laws and, you have caused our client to suffer some type of discrimination. We would like a settlement of like 14, 15 grand. And it's been happening and in some cases that they just will send a super generic form. It won't even be specific to the shop. And they're just saying, we've been able to ascertain that you're out of compliance. And so that's really been a landmine. And the thing is, that is actually an exposure that is not a covered exposure by insurance. And so that's an area where in addition to having, really awesome coverages elsewhere in OSI, we really try to educate all of our policyholders and make them aware of these things, because even though it's like, if we don't have a solution for you, we still want you to be aware of this and help you sidestep these other exposures where insurance won't be able to pick up the tab, if you will.
That's great. Yeah, I'm just thinking about my website. It probably isn't. I should check that out. Yeah. I've never thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And beyond that, Rick, I think, just in general on the property side of things, we're all watching what's going on with climate change. Our friends in South Lake Tahoe dodged a bullet, I think, last week.
Yeah.
We've got a ton of business in that area, but being able to provide affordable property insurance is going to be the challenge in the future. And then on the liability side, the legal climate out there, we've got these very liberal jurisdictions that are given these jury awards that, were unheard of in the past. And we've really got to be vigilant to make sure that we've got coverage and we've got the right adjusters and attorneys defending these claims so that we can continue to provide affordable insurance for these outdoor companies we work with.
Well, and you guys have so many years working with outdoor adventure outfitters, retailers that that helps you know how to deal with this stuff for these guys, like you say, and educate them about things like ADA and stuff like that. That's really, you guys are the go-to source, sounds like.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
We like to think so.
And you do a lot of business industry groups like the OIA and the SIA. Tell us a little bit about that. What kind of things are they under the same, I'm sure same things web related, but they might not have the retail piece.
Yeah, what we do with those groups is really just be a partner for them so that their members have a place to go to find proper affordable insurance. And we've worked with OIA and SIA for decades now. We work closely with the buying groups, whether it's GOA or SMC and SSL on the ski side. Recently, we started working with the BRA, which is the Board Retailers Association. And we really like to work with those industry groups so they know who we are and how we can benefit their members. And they've been great partners for us for years.
That's great. Do you work with any nonprofit groups like Alaska Wilderness League or anything like that?
So we do see nonprofits that need insurance. A lot of that, again, is circling back to event-based things, whether they are a outdoor education type company. We've got a reasonably big program for the bike share industry. So most of the cities across the country will set up a nonprofit to run they want the liability off the city books, and we work with those nonprofits. And so we see a little bit of everything in the for-profit and nonprofit world.
We talked about the outdoor activities that you guys do, but give us a quick rundown on the outdoor activities that you insure against, because there's so many these days. Like you mentioned, the bike share in cities, right? That's an outdoor activity.
Yeah. So we do, it's really a very robust list, if you will.
From frisbee golf to rock climbing.
Exactly. It can really run the gamut of pretty much most of the snow sports, a lot of the water sports, like the stand-up paddleboarding and kayaking and camping and out and any kind of out. I can never say this word. Why? Outfitting, camping, and so on and so forth. And then I'll let Rob expand on that further.
Yeah, you said it. We see a little bit of everything, right? We'll sit at the Outdoor Retailer Trade Show or the other trade shows we do, and people come up with all kinds of new and business ideas that need insurance. We get to see, all kinds of cool product innovation where we're working on product liability for them. And, COVID caused everyone to think outside the box and say, hey, I used to be a bike shop. Now maybe I want to electric bike shop as well. Or everybody's trying to push the envelope a little bit. And, it runs across retail and manufacturing and outfitting and guiding. And we see a little bit of everything. I
also meant to say, too, that we have a really huge presence in the ever expanding cycling space. We do a ton of bike shops and we partner with a lot of the major bike manufacturers. And so we have a huge exposure. I should say exposure, but we have a huge penetration in that space as well.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah. Just so you know, a couple episodes ago, Matt Bennett from Echoes Communications came on, and he's all about bringing back the hacky sack. So there might be some hacky sack stuff coming your way.
Great. I think we can handle hacky sacks.
I could see hacky sack golf maybe, or hacky sack soccer. That'd be fun. So let's shift gears a little bit. Do you have any suggestions or advice for folks wanting to get into the insurance side of the business? What's that career path look like?
Yeah, it's a great career, but it's a career that takes a long time to build, right? When you start off, hopefully you have a good company behind you that trains you properly and gives you the right resources and support that you need. But eventually you build a book of business and a book of clients, and hopefully they're all renewing with you every year and like what you're doing for them. And it's a great career in that you don't have to go start from scratch every year, as a lot of sales jobs do. You've got that renewal book behind you, and then you can hopefully write new business every year and continue to grow. But there's a lot of education and licensing and things like that go into it. But I would certainly encourage anyone that's interested. There's not a lot of people that do what we're doing in regards for the outdoor space. And we could use some more.
All right. Need some help there. Tori, anything to add to that?
Nope. I think that pretty much covers it.
All right. Good. No, perfect. If you were able to hang a huge banner at the entrance of the OR show or Big Gear show, what would it say?
That's an interesting question, but I think we go back to what's made our partnerships with the associations and the buying groups work all these years. And that's that we're unique and we're best in class as far as a solution for businesses in the outdoor industry.
Cool. Tori, anything?
No, I often say to people, have us do what we do best so that all of our insureds can get back to doing everything that they enjoy doing best.
Yeah, that's well said. Yeah, let the experts handle it. makes sense.
Yeah, just take it off of your plate.
Exactly. And do you guys have any daily routines to keep your sanity? Do you meditate, exercise, walk the dog, Tori?
Yeah, I love to go on super long hikes and super long walks. So I actually live right downtown Minneapolis, and I live right on the side of the Mississippi River. And so I like to go down the river paths and see all of the landscape, see all the other people that are outside and just enjoying the fresh air. And I do even do that in the dead of winter up here in Minnesota. We're a hardy folk. And yeah, absolutely. Otherwise I'd be indoors 9 to 10 months of the year.
Crazy. Yeah. Rob, how about you?
Yeah, I've got 2 big yellow dogs that need a daily walk. So we get out and we do that a lot. I've got 3 kids in sports. So the end of my workday usually ends up watching, coaching, or participating in those sorts of things with my kids, which is great. Got a whole quiver of bikes that I try and get on whenever I can. And in the winter, you have to stay outside to survive the winters up here, and like to Nordic ski and snowshoe and do a lot of that kind of stuff as well.
Very cool. That's great. Do you guys have any favorite books or books you give as gifts?
I like the business books, and Yvonne Chouinard's Let My People Go Surfing is a book I've given to a few people that need some encouragement, whether it be, in the outdoor space or the just taking an entrepreneurial attitude towards life. And so that would be the one that I would go to as my first gift, I would guess.
All right. Tori, how about you?
I'm more of I tend to like either like real kind of fiction stories, or in the nonfiction space, I like to do things that have a lot of just like weird stories in them. So a favorite book that I've been giving out is American Kingpin, it's the story of the guy who founded that dark website called the Silk Road, which is basically like the dark web Amazon for all things illegal.
Well, that kind of makes sense with what you do for a living.
Yeah, but it's a really interesting book. It's a really cool story. It's interesting in how they caught him and everything. I kind of go off in a bit of a different path. Yeah.
Yeah. Breaks up all the detail stuff that you deal with sometimes. Yeah. So what is your favorite outdoor gear purchase under $100?
I will say hand warmers, harkening back to my, I am largely a winter sport person, love to ski. As I said, I will always do my hikes and my long distance walks, even in the dead of winter. Being up here in Minneapolis, that's a rather intense experience at times. And those hand warmers, I'll tell you what, I can stay outside a whole lot longer than I otherwise would in those types of climates. Yeah.
I can imagine.
Under $100 is tough sometimes. I would say headlamps. I've been known as a headlamp geek in my circles here.
Yep, that's a good one too. Yeah, they come in handy too when you're walking in the dead of winter or whatever it is you're doing.
That's right. At 4:30 in the afternoon in the winter, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. As we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to say or ask of our listeners?
I just say we're here to help. If anybody out there wants to get in touch with us, this is really all that we do. And we don't do a lot of things well, but we certainly do this well. And I would love to be a resource for anybody that's listening.
Perfect. Tori?
Yeah, I think he covered it. And, the best way to get a hold of us is to check out our website, which is Outdoor Sports INS. So it's like INS instead of insurance. So outdoorsportsins.com, or to email us at osi@horizonagency.com.
Perfect. We'll link to that in the show notes, put a link to your website and the emails. Yeah, that'd be great. Appreciate you guys' time coming on the show. It's been educational for me. Hopefully the listeners will find the same thing and reach out to you guys and make sure they're covered.
Yeah,
thank you very much, Rick.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Outdoor Biz Podcast. Be sure to visit our website, theoutdoorbizpodcast.com, where you'll find show notes with links to everything we talked about and more. Subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts so you'll never miss an episode. And while you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes. Or spread the word and tell a friend about the show. That would really help us out too. Be sure to tune in every week. And thanks again for listening to the Outdoor Biz Podcast with Rick Saez.